Today we're talking about film festivals.
That adds color to the story.
Roll sound. Cameras rolling.
Welcome to Butter City, the show all about filmmaking with a little bit of a Minnesota twist. Today we have three filmmakers with us. We have Carrie Bush, Carrie Clark, and Molly Katagiri. Thanks for coming to the show, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
So you guys are kind of becoming a little bit of a little famous as a filmmaking trio. So how'd you guys first meet?
Well, Carrie and I both went to MCTC together. We're the only females in our class, so we naturally gravitated towards each other on projects. And then Molly, we met you on a couple film shoots.
I also went to MCTC, but I was in the film program, they were in the video program, and yeah, we kind of overlapped on projects, and Carrie and I interned for Melody Gilbert together, and yeah, then we joined up in, what was it, 2006?
Yeah. Yep, we received a grant from IFP, the Access Grant at the time, and to do a documentary focusing on two women at the Harriet Tubman Center. And originally it was just Carrie and I, and then we were like, we need another person. And I think on Henry, Bill Cruz's Henry, we all were like, hey, Molly, you want to come along, be a part of this with us? And the rest is history. And so, yeah, that was 2006.
So you guys, I mean, you guys have a lot of experience, like ADing and, you know, a lot of different positions on productions. And I know when you got together, you got this access grant with IFP, and you decided to do Redefine. Was there a particular reason why the three of you, A, picked a documentary, and B, decided to all three be directors?
Well, for Redefine, Carrie wrote the grant, or they wrote the grant application, and so it was going to be their film. And Carrie comes from an editing background, Carrie directing and writing, and well, I'm just kind of throwing things out here. I'll start. Do you guys want to answer it since it's you?
You can speak for us. I'm sure you'll agree on it. We're sounding right.
So will you ask the question one more time, just so it can...
Yeah. So I mean, So I was going to ask why you picked a documentary, but before we go to that, let's talk a little bit about how the three of you even decided that you should be a team directing together.
That kind of began almost accidental. The documentary was such a collaboration. So, and we were kind of pinch hitting for each other when one person would work and the other person would come, and we all did the interviews and we all did the editing together. So that's kind of worked out, and that's where we got our experience working together and understanding how to communicate with each other. And but with Golden Hour, it was sort of an accident because we, just for fun, decided to write a film together, just kind of as an exercise, to three people put their minds together and do that. And then when we were finished, we just kind of, to see how it would go, decided to apply for the Jerome grant. And at that point, we were just, well, we're all directors, you know, so we put all of our names on it. And I personally didn't think anyone would give a grant to three directors. So then they did. So at that point,
We're like, we have to make
But
it.
I feel like we had enough, as we were writing our grant proposal, like we had enough faith in each other that we could be a trio because of Redefine and like how close we work together. I think it's...
Yeah. And the three of us motivate each other very well. Like after Redefine, that was a 3-year project. And we were editing together, sitting on a couch for hours in front of a laptop, telling Carrie, who was actually pushing the buttons, back it up, no. Go forward, no. And she was like, I got this. But we figured after we got through that process that we were gonna, like, we're a team, man. Like, we have this now, you know? And yeah, so just to back up with what Molly said, it was kind of, and because we motivate each other, we were like, let's, on a winter's night, one night, we were like, let's get together and come up with the idea for our next project. And so we did, and we wrote what is now Golden Hour with the idea, we started with an idea of memory and how people like look at a situation and go into their minds and remember it, and how it's people remember things differently and the process of that. And we all kind of, with that theme, went away from each other, wrote our own kind of treatment or idea of that theme, and then came back. And originally we were going to put these 3 separate ideas together, and each of us were going to direct the portion that we wrote and somehow try to connect it all together. But since then, like, the story has just, you know, ebbed and flowed and changed totally. I remember one day we were writing and we decided to change the ending. We were like, oh yeah, okay, this is how it's gonna go now, after like a year of the way it was. One day it was like, okay, now it's this way. And yeah, so.
Let's take a look at a clip from Golden Hour right now. So that's a beautiful film. And I know to create the kind of beauty that are in a lot of those shots really takes a lot of collaboration. I know we've talked a little bit about how the 3 of you have kind of learned to collaborate with each other, but can you tell me a little bit more about, you know, to get this shot, the kind of collaboration that took?
I feel like we were well prepared before we met with any of our key, like before we met with Jeff George, the DP, or Sherry Anderson, our production designer. Like, we were well planned. We had our storyboards planned out like months in advance. Yeah. And so when we sat down to meet with them, like, we were ready to have those conversations and answer questions.
We wanted to be completely on the same page for everything, so that when we got out there on, you know, the set, but also just in the pre-production process, to be able to just always be on the same page and have those, because there's so much collaboration that goes into filmmaking in general. You collaborate with your DP, and you collaborate, and that's what we feel is the beauty of filmmaking, is the fact that you're collaborating with so many different people and so many different types of art. And so I feel like working with Carrie, and Carrie has been kind of the most valuable thing I've ever done for my career, because, especially as a filmmaker, because to know how to collaborate effectively and to collaborate creatively is just, it's a hard thing to do, you know, to start out. But so getting out there, then we didn't waste any time discussing things between us. It was, you know, we already knew. And so if the DP had something, to, you know, if Jeff George had something that he brought up, we all knew what page we were on, and would know, like, we were always on the same page, whether, you know, we use, and he came up with some great, beautiful things to add to our film.
Well, he is. I mean, I know we'll see a little bit clip later with some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. But people really complimentary to. I mean, people don't come out, especially in this town. They don't come out to work on a film like this unless there's a strong story. And so I think it's a compliment that also so many people came and are working on this piece, and it's pretty high like special effects, isn't it?
Yes. There's a lot of special effects.
So how, I mean, like that also amazed me when I learned that too, that the three of you are directing it, but then you're also like directing something that's really special effects heavy. How do you negotiate that and set up your shots and make sure you're getting what you need for those effects to go in later?
Well, first of all, like the three of us wrote this together, and when writing it, we didn't think about what it would mean to actually put it on screen. We're like, this is what we want, and we're gonna go for what we want until we're told we can't have it.
We didn't really hold back on our storytelling, which is why there's
three or four decades. There's special effects where the worlds mesh and just our collaborate. Yeah, and being able to bring that to Pixel Farm and collaborate in meetings there to hear Tom Jacobson, his ideas and like how we can achieve it. He's never said, no, you can't do that. It's more of like working with, trying to figure out more of what we're looking for and then finding a way to execute it when we're on set.
That's kind of the same way we also went about crewing up or getting our team together. Was we're going to ask, and they might say no, but we're going to ask. And so we asked, the best people that we knew to ask, the best people in town, and then they just kept saying yes. So it's been the other thing too, making him 80 years old. We always thought like, we could maybe do it in makeup, and of course we'd ask Chris DeBallis if what were we going to say?
Well, for a while we were going to try to cast a younger and an older Jim. I mean, that's what we were looking for. We didn't even think it was possible to do it with makeup because we didn't have, although we have got such a great grant from the Jerome Foundation, money goes fast when you're making film. And so we were looking for a young and an old.
At first, but keeping as a backup idea, how nice would it be to not have, have the same actor, and maybe Chris Ballas could make them, with little touch-up makeups, but we did not understand what really went into the process of making him. And Chris came on, and he's our executive producer, and he came on a couple weeks or less before we shot. And it was right before we did our final casting, just to be safe. But, and it took them 5 hours to do the makeup every single day. So, and on a short, ambitiously scheduled film, that makes for a long day for the crew, made for sometimes over 20 hours for our makeup team and Charles, our lead actor, Charles Hubbo.
But it's great that it worked out that way because, I would imagine, when we see the final film, it's going to be nice for the audience to see the same eyes.
Definitely.
In the 30-year-old to the, 80-year-old to really have that congruency. But this project is like an amazing project. And then, with all the special effects. But when you guys first worked together, you were working together on a documentary called Redefine. And that's like almost the exact opposite. It's you guys with a camera. Did you have somebody else shooting with you, or
Carrie shot it?
Yeah, so running and gunning.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
So a completely different setup. So can you tell me a little bit about how you guys, first started working together with Redefine?
Sure. It seems so long ago, but
originally. We had a connection with the Harriet Tubman Center, and we were filming meetings that they were having there. They're having public achievement meetings at the Harriet Tubman Center. And so we started to film that and wrote the grant through IFP and got that Access grant. So And then that kind of evolved into not this huge meeting, this weekly meeting that the women, it was designed so that the women kind of grabbed onto a topic and kind of felt empowerment because they were achieving something. Like
they were lobbying for better health care in Minnesota at the time. So like we made phone calls and went on a march, you know, to
get. Yeah. And then it just evolved. We found our characters. We found our two characters, Jessica and Synovia, and they were willing to let us put a camera in their face and to follow them around.
You know, it became more about their family situations and their families, and paralleling the two of them and their families' fight against the kind of the cycle of abuse. So
Synovia was really someone with a lot of wisdom, and so like everything she says is just really meaningful. And like it was interesting to see that with Jessica, who's still just trying to figure things out right now, you know, in her 20s and dealing with relationship issues. And so
let's take a look at this clip from Redefine.
I have never been in a relationship that hasn't been in some way abusive, whether it's physically, verbally, mentally.
I ain't gotta walk with my head down or, you know, feeling like I'm about to cry. You know, people looking at me on a bus with tears about to roll down my eyes. You promised you weren't gonna do this, and the promises, wow, they really can be broken. I hate promises. He even told me one time to death do us apart. You know, I could leave here. If I leave here, then, you know, nobody was gonna have me. And, you know, now these days, men really do that, so. Then that made me scared to leave, so, you know, so I finally just got away in 2005.
My ex-boyfriend threw me down the stairs and punched me. And me and my kids were there. And he had a gun and took me and my kids back and held us for 2 or 3 days. He got sentenced to 2 years. After that, I'm just really scared that he'll come back for revenge in some kind of way.
I didn't need this around my kids, the arguments, you know, and all that. Really, what was I looking at? Because it couldn't have been love. I guess it was just blindness, I don't know. If he cares so much about you, he'll care a lot about your kids. And evidently, he couldn't care too much about me because he didn't have respect for my kids. And I'm not giving my kids up for just to be with another guy or anything.
I think learning that you're worth something definitely takes time. You don't feel it right away. I think with time and support, that will make you feel like you're something.
They say, children, if you're tired, keep going. If you are scared, keep going. If you are hungry, keep going. If you want to taste freedom, keep going. Harry Tubman. Ain't no power like the power of the big, got the power of the people on down. They feel they've been abused, they need to get out the relationship to see that they breathe better. I don't know how to explain it, but it's, you know, you just can feel it, you know. You want to jump in the air because you're more excited, you know, it's like excitement.
So, Redefine's a powerful story, and you know, it makes me want to ask you guys this question about, you know, as the three of you came to choose a story, you know, it was originally focused on domestic violence and sort of women really trying to change their lives and at the same time have an inner reflection. And then you've also now come on to do Golden Hour, and you're taking a look at really the story of Alzheimer's in a narrative form. What is it that motivates you guys, or where, you know, like you must find something that like keeps you interested in coming together and sharing stories like these. What do you think is the thing that really sparks you wanting to tell stories?
I think for me, and for us, just to explore exploring what other people are going through and like learning from them, like opening my eyes to another world, especially with Redefine, knowing about domestic abuse, but then like personally traveling along with these ladies for 1.5 years, like really made myself grow in my perspective of how society, you know, people who do not have a voice in society, and how important that is to get that out there.
To give them a platform and a voice for the documentaries, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, why I even got into filmmaking in the first place was to try to give a voice to people that, or subject matters that don't get a lot of airtime in the mainstream media. And so with Redefine, I mean, absolutely, like trying to show that these women are people and not a statistic, that there's a story behind them. There's a reason why they are where they're at, you know, is what we try to do. And like with Golden Hour, you know, I mean, it's a focus on Jim's mind and the idea that we don't really know how different people process different things, or how the mind processes things in general, and just trying to put that up on the screen, make sense of that.
It's also the humanity, you know, people who are in different situations like that, whether it's sickness or just a situation that, like Redefined, where they're dealing with domestic violence and stuff, you truly see and connect with the humanity of somebody, which is their character, you know, and I think that's, you know, your characters should be strong and interesting, and so we try to, you know, invest a lot in our characters that we either write or interview.
Is there, you know, as you guys are doing these films together, you must, I mean, as you're trying to develop these characters, I mean, normally, like, if somebody's writing this alone or they're directing it alone, it's like, you go on this journey with a character anytime you make a film. And, you know, the director sometimes goes on that journey alone, but you guys have to be going on this together. I mean...
Yeah, and then the actor comes into it, too, which adds that, too. So we, you know, we did, just to be on the same page, we did our background story of Jim. We didn't want to take that fully away from our actor. You know, so we didn't put everything on the table, and then they bring something to the character as well. And after we saw Charles Hubble in his full makeup and, you know, completely Jim became so much more real, and we ended up making a lot of creative choices, changing them from what the original script was, just to kind of keep it more organically Jim.
Let's take a look at some of the behind-the-scenes footage from the shoot.
A couple of weeks ago, we went up to Duluth and shot 1.5 days on Park Point. The sun was exactly the way it needs to be. The water was glorious. It was one of the funnest days I've had shooting.
And then we took that enthusiasm right into the first day in the Twin Cities. It was just a really good experience. All 3 days were a very good experience. And I remember driving up there going, Jesus, why am I doing this again? These, you know, these freebies, and blah, blah. And then coming home, I felt, wow, I'm glad I did this, because, you know, everybody was, you know, collaborating and stuff, and there was enthusiasm, and they, you know, it was really bright out there, and so they all put this like hood over somebody's jacket over themselves, and then they have a little monitor, and you could hear them going, ooh, I love that, ooh, I don't love that, ooh, what about this, and what about that, and it was just really, for lack of a better word, cute. But you got these 3 women that are working together on this film, and they're not fighting. They get along well. They seem to allow each other to do certain parts of the job.
They're not like control freaks, or, I mean, the fact that they're laid back, yeah, they see the beauty in what's being shot.
Shooting-wise, we have actually quite a bit left to do. We have 5 days scheduled for October. One of the days we'll be shooting at the Hollywood Theater. That's Jim's Mind.
When I first saw that theater, the directors were making fun of me because I started crying, because it was such a perfect example of like a representation in 3 dimensions of what an Alzheimer, dementia kind of memory loss mind might look like. Like you can see the beauty that was there, but now things are kind of falling apart, and it's like a perfectly aged space.
So I know this film, you've just finished, shooting and you're in post-production now. So you guys have got to be really excited, but what's the schedule? How can folks actually start to see this film?
We hope to have it done, we're kind of setting our goals for ourselves, but we hope to have it done by the spring. So what we're shooting for, it's got a lot of processes to go through for the post. And everybody is volunteering their time, so we have to be respectful of that as well. But we're shooting for April to be finished.
Yeah. Well, and it's got to be. This is exciting. You're about to finish now. It's your first narratives, 3 of you directing, and all of the folks that have come together. Pixel Farm and all the different folks that have come on to do this film. Such a fantastic project. So, Carrie, what's the website that people can go to check out more?
Well, they can check us out on Facebook, Golden Hour, the film.
So I want to thank you guys for coming in today. It's a pleasure to hear about Golden Hour and all the work you're doing. I'm really excited to see what the next film is you're going to work on. And thank you for watching this episode of Butter City. You can check us out at buttercity.com. You can check us out on Facebook, and we tweet also. See you next time.